Hey guys, another video from the Holiday Homestead. I'm Whitney Holiday. So I wanted to do part two, I guess, of the seedling start video. In the first part, I showed you how I make my seedling soil with kind of throwaway soil from the nurseries mixed with and kind of enriched with rabbit manure from our meat rabbits. I showed you how to blend it up and pretty much just crush it, however you want to do it, but basically just breaking it up into something fine and small, and then mixing it in into this kind of discarded soil that, you know, has a few good qualities left in it, and certainly can be enriched to do a lot more than rot in a pot. So that's all done. So the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is your containers. So oh sorry, I should say, no, let's back up. Let's do when to start your seeds. That's the first thing, really. So everybody asks me, oh, I want to start my seeds, but I never know when to start them indoors. Because there are pretty much two types of seeds. There's the ones you'll start outside, called like direct sow, and other ones, or say like sow in place or something on the packet. The other ones say start indoors, 6 to 8 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, 1 to 2 weeks before your last frost. You should really take a minute to research the last frost and the first frost dates of your area. It varies by area, and even by like just your elevation. So really take some time, or just ask some neighbors. If you know someone who gardens on your street and they've been doing it for years and years, just ask them, hey, when have you usually seen the last frost and then the first frost? Also, I go by insects and what they are doing. I pay very close attention to ladybugs. In college, I did a lot of work with ladybugs. But basically, ladybugs overwinter quite well, and they are very good indicators of when it actually is spring, summer weather again. And my basic rule, is 10 ladybugs in one day is my cue that we're okay. If that rhymes. I guess that rhymes. When I see 10 ladybugs in one day, it has to be 10 in one day. I know that the frost date is past and I'm not going to have any more frosts. And if the ladybugs think that it's a good time to come out and start living and doing, then it's okay for my tomatoes and melons and whatever else I've got. But everyone has a different way of telling the last frost date. And there's tons of information online. So just take some time, do a little bit of research. But anyway, what you'll also want to do is look at the seed packet. There is a ton of information on your seed packet. So actually read it, please, read it. So these are some that I really love. These are huckleberries. Now I buy all of my seeds from Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company, and they're amazing. Good prices, like reasonable prices for a decent amount of seeds. I will say I have noticed since 2020 the seed count has gone down, but the price has stayed the same. And honestly, I get it. I mean, I used to get 200 seeds for $2.50 for something, and now it's like, you're gonna get 100 seeds or 50 seeds, but for the same price. And I guess it's kind of frustrating in one sense, but at the same time I'm thinking, a good gardener only needs like 5 seeds really to get started, because if you seed cycle, you'll have a bajillion seeds by the end of next year, or of that plant's year, so you'll be good. So I'm okay with the lower seed count, and I totally understand. I mean, these are tough times. Everybody's got to cut corners somewhere to survive. So yay, Bigger Creek, you guys are awesome. Anyway, let's see here. So like for this one, it says, has a bunch of information about the seeds themselves. Planting instructions: start indoors in fine, moist soil 6 to 8 weeks before setting out after frost. Harvest berries only when fully ripe, etc., etc. So now that tells me I can start these berries 6 to 8 weeks inside of the house before I put them out. And when I put them out, it has to be after the last frost date. So, okay, I'm thinking, all right, so, I should say that also on the side edge, they have the basic information that's universal for all of the plants. And they always had this little breakdown. They have sprouts in 7 to 21 days. Something okay. It could be a week, it could be almost a month before I see a seedling come out of here. The ideal temperature is 75 to 85 Fahrenheit, so that's basically room temperature. You know, sunny windowsill reaches that indoors. Seed depth is 8.5 or 1/8 inch for covering with soil. Plant spacing is 15 inches apart. That's easy. That's stuff I'll worry about when we actually go outside. Frost hardy, it says no, big letters, no. And the minimum sun is 8 to 12 hours. So that's a basic breakdown of what the plant needs to survive. Bare minimum survive, other than obviously water and air. Anyway, um, so when it says 6 to 8 weeks before, or 6 to 8 weeks after my last frost date, or before my last frost date, but to plant them after last frost. So I'm thinking, okay, if they're supposed to grow in 75 to 85 degree temperature out here in Sierra Nevada foothills of California, that is, we get 75 to 85, I would say like late May, early June. Safe to say, by like June 1, we'll for sure have 75 to 85 degrees at least. So that's the time I'm going to be putting them out. Now it says I can start them 6 to 8 weeks before then, or before my last frost date. So I'm thinking my last frost date is usually like the very end of April. But I don't want to put them out the end of April. I'm going to put them out closer towards the end of May. So I'm thinking, okay, so if I put them out in May, end of May, let's say, then I can start them, let's see, 8 weeks, that's going to be 2 months. So I can start them end of May, end of April, end of March. So right around middle to end of March is when I will start these indoors, middle to end of March. So that gives the plant the end of March, so that means April, May, and probably a little bit into June, or yeah, a little bit into June, before I need to put these out. So that gives them a good start before I put them outside, well after that last frost date. Now, also keep in mind, that's basically the kind of formula. Think about when you want to actually plant this plant outside and count backwards. Now also keep in mind, it also says 7 to 21 days before it even sprouts. So if I see my seedlings starting at the end of March to plant it and to keep it growing through April, through May, and plant like last week of May, early June, now I'm thinking, oh, 7 to 21 days even before I see that little seedling. So go back another, I'd say 2 weeks to be safe. So now you're talking like first, second week of March to plant this so that it grows, and has plenty of time to be ready to go after frost and when it's nice and warm, somewhere end of May, early June, okay? So that's basically how I gauge this. I just count backwards and then think about, okay, now when is the seedling going to start? Now when should I put the seed in the ground? And obviously this can be quite a guessing game, even for people who know what they're doing, which I don't, but I'm just saying. So that brings up the next point, which is the container that you use. So a lot of people, myself included, sometimes, well, I used to, will use these little tiny seedling starts. These are, yay, so easy, right? You just push them through, wonderful. I don't recommend these. For one, well, the biggest thing is that they're small. When you are, especially when you're starting out, just trying to get a feel for when the last frost date is, when is the right time to put these out. You don't want them to die, obviously, because you put all this work into it for months and months in your windowsill, and then it, dies in one night. That's really disappointing. So when you're just starting out, these little trays don't give you a lot of leeway. They really don't. The plant, even if you just plant one or sow one seed per cell, these guys are going to get root bound real quick. A lot of people say, well, that has to do with your seed starting mix. You can put, use a fancier, more expensive, ultimately, seed starting mix, and then they'll have more nutrients. So this little tiny cell will work just fine, et cetera, et cetera. And that's great and wonderful. And that can be true. But if you're doing this on a budget where you don't have a ton of money to throw at the fanciest, best organic wonderful seedling start mix and you're just using your good old, reclaimed dirt with some enrichment elements put into it, it's going to be hard to get enough nutrients in these tiny little cells to give your plant what it needs long term. Because think about it, this is going to be its home, unless you want to replant things. I don't replant things. I don't replant my seedlings. You're in the pot, you stay in the pot. I do you once. Um, but if you are ready to move these to another pot when they get bigger, and another pot when they get bigger, and then outside, great, wonderful, have at it. But that just sounds like a lot of work, and I'm kind of lazy. Hi, Evelyn. Shh, I'm filming. Shush. Okay, so the next one is these guys. Bigger, right? Bigger, but still, they're small, they're shallow, and also these tear like crazy. They rip all the time. So kind of, I would say least awesome, slightly better, but the choice that I go with is the big one. The big, nice container. This is a 32 ounce yogurt container. And I just live by these. You might as well. They're much bigger, much deeper, and they do fit in my windowsill very nicely, like right there in the little tray that my husband built for me. And so when I have these, I'm not moving that plant until I am ready to put it in the ground. And that saves me time. So I don't have to go back and forth moving plants around in different pots. And also the stress on the seedling, for goodness sakes, because now you're moving it 3 and 4 times to different size pots. So these, this size, I plant 3, like a little peace sign, 3 in here. And that has worked for me for every type of plant that I've done. Tomatoes, squashes, although with squashes I usually plant just 2 or maybe even 1 because I know they have a really high germination rate, so they come up really well. So this buys you time and it helps to give you a little bit of leeway in between your seedling to ground. Can you go see what's wrong, please? Thank you. He's all right. He's fine. It's just the joys of being 3. All right. So giving yourself more time is key. Damn it. Shh, hold on. Giving yourself more time really, really helps. So let's prepare this container for growing in the windowsill. So the first thing you're gonna do is put holes in it. I always go with 3. I don't know why. Baba, do you want some cookies? What? Go get some cookies. That will help. I'm filming right now, honey, so hush. Go get a cookie, okay? Oh, yeah. Okay, sounds good. All right, so what you want to do is take 3. Right there. Now, yes. Now, you can go ahead and fill this. What? I'm talking to the camera, honey. You're not going to go get a cookie? No. Oh, okay. Just 1 or 2 per person. Alrighty. Okay, so I have filled my little thing with my medium. I kind of just pat it down a little bit. I like to leave it fluffy. You don't need to cram it in there. All right. Let's see here. Now, I'm going to start some seeds for a friend of mine. We'll do the mortgage lifters. These are cool. She has limited indoor space, and so, or limited windowsill space anyway. So, and the cool part is she bought me a lot of these seeds. So I said, hey, why don't I start some seedlings for you in my windowsill as a thank you for buying me these awesome seeds. So when someone does you a solid, guys, return the favor. Do your best. Okay. So, and I just cover very lightly. Okay, so that's 1. I put in 3 seeds, and that's it. Now I'll put that aside. Okay, so yeah, using the larger pots will give you more time. I highly recommend it. I mean, you can get these guys This is something I got just from, I think my dad gave me this because he buys plants from like Home Depot and stuff. And I always say, hey, save me the pots, I'll come get them, you know, baking some cookies or something, I don't know. But this is really handy because even these pots, I would only do like one or maybe two of something that I was very sure was going to germinate. So like my squashes or something, I would put one in here of this size because I'm pretty sure the squash seeds are going to germinate pretty well. But anything that I'm, you know, just regular germination like tomatoes, ground cherries, other stuff, I would do 3 in a large pot. Okay. Alrighty. So, and then of course, obviously you want to put it in the nice windowsill. So the location, when you're putting your seedlings somewhere, especially when it's before the last frost date, so this is when they can't be outside, um, I kind of go with the good, better, best method. Um, so good would be like a greenhouse or something where you can just kind of put it in the corner and, you know, it's going to be a little colder, but at least it'll be warmer than if you just was outside. So basically good. I have a pretty large greenhouse and we put our seedlings in there after they're hardened off a bit. So that's good if you have no other place to put your seed, your like just sown seedlings. It's good. It'll work. But it'll probably take longer to germinate because the soil is not going to be very warm. And so it won't freeze over, but the soil is not going to activate that seed and say, hey, it's time to start growing, like a higher temperature would. So then better would be something like these little mini greenhouses I see people do. It's just basically a clear storage container flipped over with the lid on the floor, and you put your little seedlings in there and you put the lid on top. It makes like a little greenhouse. It's doable, you know. I would say because I've done that in the past and they have worked. I will say though, you want to make sure for one thing is that the lid, the dome part that goes on top, the storage container part, make sure that's, you know, a foot deep or something to give your plants some headroom. You don't want one of those little shallow containers that just barely fits over your pots. You want something nice and tall that stands up. It also helps the air circulation. Two, speaking of air circulation, take the lid off during the day. Unless you punch some holes in there or something, there's not going to be a lot of airflow. And really, you don't want to put holes in it because you want to trap warm air at night and let it go during the day. So if you're using one of those, you know, definitely put it on, you know, well before sunset, put the cover on well before sunset, and protect it from the frost. And then when it's warm enough in the, you know, late morning, go ahead and take it off and let the seedlings get some air. Otherwise, you'll get a lot of mold buildup on the top of your starter soil, and that's not really a good thing for your seedlings. So there's that. So then best of my good, better, best is indoors in your house windowsill. Most houses, like we keep ours, I don't know, anywhere, I think the lowest it gets is maybe mid 60s. We do use a wood stove for our heat, and you know, we turn it on or start it up if there's a need, but for the most part, our house stays 65, you know, somewhere in there. And also, if you put it in a nice sunny windowsill, it's not only going to maintain a good 65 or so, it's also going to get nice and warm. And just as a little tip, if you're doing a windowsill, close the curtains of the windowsill around the plant because the white of the curtain liner that you have will reflect light back to your seedling. So your seedling's getting light from the sun, and it's also getting the reflected light off of that white background, and will really help it to make sure it gets enough sun in that windowsill. So yeah, so there's that. Let's see here. So what I'll do here is I'll just hold up my notes for this because they're all kind of useful. So I'll just hold that up for a second, and if you want to screenshot it, you can. Da, da, da. Okay. All right. So the next thing I wanted to show you real quick. Actually, maybe I'll make another video for that. Anyway, all right. Hope this helps. Bye.